Welcome to the NAFA Edutainment series. This particular episode is entitled Flashback. We'll be trying to explain the principles of flashback and why it's dangerous to you as a fire performer. Okay, so what flashback is essentially the principle of fuel and its tendency to produce vapors that can be carried along a breeze or corridor or trapped in a room that if those vapors run into an ignition source, can flash back to the source. This happens depending upon mostly the vapor pressure of your fuels. Class 1 fuels like white gas have a very low flash point and a very high vapor pressure. So the low flash point means like when you stick your lighter to it and you just touch it, they poof, poof, get going, ready to go. You can even burn white gas on ice. It's got that low of a flash point. But because it's got a low flash point, it's also got a very high vapor pressure. So once the vapors actually get into the atmosphere, they move out spherically very quickly. So you never have to you can never light your wicks when they're far away. You have to get right up to them to get a white gas soaked wick to light. Class 3 fuels, like lamp oil, tend to have very, very high flash points. You have to heat the fuel up to a couple hundred degrees before they'll even start producing vapors that can be ignited. And that's why when you soak a wick in lamp oil, it takes forever to light, because it needs to be heated up before it'll start emitting vapors. The wax in this candle is very similar to lamp oil in that respect. It's even longer chain hydrocarbons, so at room temperature it's a solid, not a liquid. Possibly the most dangerous fuel regarding flashback is gasoline and kerosene. Both of these fuels can have a flash point right at room temperature, which means that they start producing these vapors in normal atmospheres, normal temperatures that you're accustomed to. And their vapor pressure is low enough that they tend to stay in these clouds. To get an idea of what the cloud is like, if you've ever seen the movie The Abyss, there's one scene with a water tendril that moves through their environment in this sort of snaky kind of way. That's very similar to how these vapors move in any kind of light wind. Like white gas, if you trap them in a room, it's still a problem. But unlike white gas, when you have them out in a back alley, instead of just dissipating completely, they stay in that sort of water tendril and keep moving, and you can travel upwards of a mile until they find somebody smoking or lighting or any kind of spark happens, and they could potentially flash back, not just to their source, but anything that the source is touching. So well, you may have a gallon of kerosene sitting open, and that's not likely to ignite from a simple flashback. The white gas that goes by might. So this is what makes everything really super dangerous, and why you should always use a lid on your fuel buckets. So what we're going to try to do today is an old trick with candles. You'll notice whenever you blow out a candle, it produces these nice little wisps of smoke. We'll explain what's going on there. You can see the little red coal there. That's an important part of the whole process. The fuel in a candle is actually the body. You don't want that wick to disappear completely. The fuel in the candle is actually the body, and that's wax. Wax is essentially a very long chain hydrocarbon. Sometimes it's got some other additives on it, but for our purposes, those pretty much don't matter at all. This is essentially, the same thing as lamp oil. But when we light the candle, notice it takes a second for it to really get going. And what's happening is that in the whole process of the candle, is that the solid fuel is being heated by the flame, which produces on its surface a little puddle of liquid fuel. This liquid fuel is heated to a point where it can start migrating along the capillary, and it moves up the wick to fill up any available space. And when it gets into the wick, I know it's hard to see in this, but once it gets into the wick, it's actually inside the flame, so it's completely surrounded, by flame, and it's heated sufficiently to convert the liquid into vapor. And when we blow it out, that wisp of smoke that we see is that vapor, like that tendril from the abyss, moving off the wick. And like I said, that little red ember there was important, because once we blow it out, the wick stays hot enough to continue emitting vapors for some variable period of time, depending upon the type of wax and the wick material and all that stuff. And we're going to make use of that in this example to show you quite visibly what's going on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to blow out the candle, and then I'm going to take my trusty lighter here and hold it in the smoke, but not anywhere near the wick. And if we're really lucky, once I do, you're going to see the flame come off my lighter, zip down the smoke, and jump onto the candle itself. Now, you might think that we're using some sort of weird camera tricks, but I can, trust me, this is not anything new or special or different. We don't have George Lucas sitting back. You can do this at home. Do it safely, of course, as with any flame. But this is something that most candles will do. I have found that beeswax candles do it best, if you want to try this. And after a couple of runs here, I've noticed that this candle requires me to do this very quickly. So here we go. You ready? So we're going to blow this out, and you'll see the wisp of smoke come. I'll hit it. It should flash back. Okay. I don't know what it is. This one always takes twice. Okay. So, but you did see an awful lot of smoke there. All of that smoke is this wax. Okay? The wax from the body of the candle. It is exactly the same stuff, just liquefied and then vaporized from the tip of the candle. And like I said, it can be ignited in air. Just like that. That is flashback. And that's why you have to be extra safe with your fuels. Always make sure to use a lid on your fuel bucket. And please always use a metal fuel bucket. Paint cans are perfect for this. I'm Tedward. This is Napa Entertainment Flashback. Enjoy.